You know, guys, if there's one thing we do know over the past 24, 48 hours, it's college football has changed forever with this massive move by Texas and Oklahoma into the SEC. There's a ton of rumors out there about the conference realignment. I'm going to give you guys my take on what I think most likely will happen. Really, the two things we know right now is I believe the Big 12 has two choices. Either one, become a group of five conference. I know they've, had talks maybe with Cincinnati, teams like that, Houston, someone like that, about adding a team or teams from the American to their conference. Either way, even if they added one of those two teams, they would be a very weak conference. They would not be considered, a Power 5 major conference in college football. That's their first option, become a group of five conference. Their second option is to dissolve and basically just cease to exist, which is what I think is likely going to happen. We're getting reports here. A TCU mod is confirming that Texas and OU are leaving. Says TCU is talking to the Pac-12. Also said a source said that the Big 12 will implode. Others are already making calls too. I think that would be a good fit for TCU going to the Pac-12. And I know people have speculated, well, we're actually going to a Big 3 conference and the Pac-12 is going to cease to exist as well. I don't think that's likely. There's a lot of people within the Big 12 that are pushing for many of these Pac-12 teams to join, the Big Ten. There's many people within the Big Ten Conference wanting an Oregon, a USC to join the Big Ten. And at that point, it's just like, what is the point of divisions? What is the point of conferences? If you're traveling to Eugene, if you're Ohio State and you're traveling from Columbus to Eugene, Oregon to play a conference game, what's the point? I don't think the Pac-12 will, dissolve or implode or anything like that. I think a team like TCU or maybe another lower end type team from the Big 12 would look to latch on, maybe like a Baylor to the Pac-12. It'll be really interesting to see how that works out. As for the Big Ten and as for Ohio State, there's so many different rumors going on around about Ohio State, about the Big Ten. What is the Big Ten going to do to counteract this just empire the SEC has built? This is a crazy rumor. The SEC has been in serious contact with Ohio State, Michigan, Clemson, and Florida State. That's via Jack McGuire. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not sure how credible that is. But obviously, if a team like Ohio State and Clemson join the SEC, it would kind of create that type of Premier League you see in soccer with all the elite teams in one league. And then we obviously all know that we're going to have a complete expansion of the college football playoff. That is 100% guaranteed to happen now with OU and Texas joining the league. The one thing I really couldn't find out yesterday, what year will OU and Texas move to the SEC? I found this article. It says right here, 6 burning questions following Texas and Oklahoma's SEC jump. This is a pretty good article. When could Texas and Oklahoma join the SEC? You go down here, the person says if he had to bet, it would be by 2022 or 2023 as opposed to 2024 or 2025. Now, Texas and Oklahoma have obligations to the SEC in terms of TV revenue, but they're expected to buy out their contracts so they can leave. Or they have obligation to the Big 12. I'm getting the conferences confused. They have obligations towards the Big 12 in terms of TV revenue, but they're trying to get out of it to join the SEC. I'm guessing by 2023, OU and Texas will be in the SEC, and we will have a fully expanded at least 12-team college football playoff. That's what I'm expecting. Moving on, what happens to the rest of the Big 12? They scramble. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of these Big 12 teams try and split off, try and join the other major 4 conferences. Like I mentioned earlier, they could try and lure a Memphis, a UCF, Cincinnati, SMU, Boise State, teams like that to try and salvage any resemblance of a Power 5 conference. But at that point, you're losing your 2 biggest powers. You're going to replace them with a team like Cincinnati and Memphis. It's just not going to happen. You're simply going to become the Big 12's best case scenario at this point for the future is to be a group of 5. The worst case scenario, which is likely according to a lot of people, is to dissolve completely. Here's another crazy rumor. An insider at Buckeye Scoop said that Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Colorado are interested in joining the Big Ten. We've heard that several times. I thought the Big Ten should really try and go get Notre Dame. It's going to be tough because Notre Dame has allegiances to the ACC, and the ACC currently is an extremely weak conference as it stands. They need a big boy like a Notre Dame, but I would love to see the Big Ten add Notre Dame. Now, this is a crazy mock of all of the 5 conferences with 16 teams in it. And really, if I'm a Big Ten fan, I'm not liking this at all. You're only adding Iowa State and Kansas. That would be a tough pill to swallow. The SEC would be an absolute super conference. The Pac-12 becomes the Pac-16. Who do they add? Oh, they add TCU and Texas Tech. That wouldn't surprise me at all if those 2 teams jumped. The Big 12 is just a complete group of 5 at this point. You're looking at teams like Colorado State, Air Force, Tulsa, Wyoming in the mix there. You know, there's Louisiana Tech, Rice, North Texas. That is a clear group of 5 conference. I think that's the best case scenario for the Big 12. And then you're going to see all these other programs from the Big 12, or most of them at least, kind of breaking off and trying to join whatever conference they can get. I know there's people out there that say the Pac-12 is going to dissolve. Logistically, it seems impossible. USC in the Big 10, I just don't understand how that makes sense regionally. Like, you can kind of see Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC. It's right there. It's more towards the middle of the country, but it's not southeast, but it's still right there. It's just like Nebraska joining the Big Ten. People freaked out about it. They said Nebraska was in the middle of the country, but they're still right there. It's like, even Oklahoma joining the Big Ten, I would understand. USC, traveling to Rutgers, Piscataway, Rutgers to face, it makes no sense to me. I don't understand it. So we will continue to update. What I end up thinking is going to happen, a lot of these Big 12 teams are going to latch onto a different conference. The Big 10 is probably going to get made. I would not want Iowa State and Kansas. Iowa State, guys, people think Iowa State has a good football program. Yeah, since Matt Campbell's been there, he's built it up. They've been decent, but they were horrible for so long, and they do not have the recruiting infrastructure or the boosters to keep someone like Matt Campbell at Iowa State for 10 to 15 years. My guess is once Matt Campbell leaves, I actually think even with Matt Campbell this year, I've said for a while now, or I've said on my videos, they're going to be not very good. I think they're going to disappoint a lot of people. A lot of people ranking Iowa State in the top 10. And then you've got Kansas. The draw there would be phenomenal basketball program, clear blue blood, but an absolutely horrific football program, one of the worst Power 5 football programs in college football over the past 10, 15 years. We understand that. So this mock right here would really not be good for the Big Ten. And it would completely set up. You take a look, by the way, ACC adding Notre Dame and West Virginia. That doesn't surprise me at all, but if I'm the Big Ten, I'm going to get Notre Dame. You have to get Notre Dame somehow because, we're seeing like Big Ten people. There's really 2 things that Big Ten or Ohio State fans are saying, and I really don't agree with either of them. Number one, they're saying Ohio State needs to join the SEC. That's what people are saying. No way. No way. We have Michigan, we have Penn State, Ohio State, Wisconsin. Those are Power 4 really good college football programs. That's a good base to build your conference around. Go get Notre Dame, but now they're saying Notre Dame's a lock to the ACC. So now you're seeing Ohio State fans and Big Ten fans saying, well, why don't we go get USC and Oregon? And it's like, logistically, that makes no sense. Like, I don't understand. What's the point of conferences then? Why don't we just create one super conference at that point? It makes no sense. But the SEC, either way, I mean, people are talking about the SEC trying to add more teams. They're already up to 16. This is just, guys, this is crazy. I think everything's going to calm down. And the Big 12, best case scenario for the Big 12, they become a group of 5 conference to rival the American. Maybe they add a Cincinnati. Maybe they add one of those. Even a team like Cincinnati. Once Luke Fickell leaves Cincinnati, Desmond Ridder, nothing against Cincinnati, but they haven't been that great. It's not like they're a consistently good football program. If I was the Big 12, I would look at adding a team like Boise State. They're consistently, normally really good. But in this mock, it actually has Boise State in the Pac-16, which would be a big win for the Pac-12 at that point if they got Boise and BYU, huh? We remember Zach Wilson. They don't have him anymore, but BYU is a really good football program, and they should be pretty good next year. I was looking at some of the FPI ranks. They really like them. I was surprised. I was like, oh, Zach Wilson is gone. BYU's not going to be nearly as good. No, they're still projected to be very good. So, guys, this is a completely developing situation right now when it comes to these conferences, when it comes to what happens with a team like TCU, what happens with a team like Baylor, what happens to some of these teams in the Big 12. Do they try and remain in the Big 12? Maybe some of the lower end ones will. Another quick thing I wanted to touch on, This article says, how should lower mid-tier SEC teams feel? And then it goes on to say Alabama, LSU, Auburn, and Florida and Georgia are going to be fine with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma. They're blue bloods. I agree with this except for Auburn. Guys, I think Auburn is in deep trouble right now. They are currently starting their rebuild. They're not recruiting well at all. You add two blue bloods, Texas and Oklahoma, to an already absurdly competitive SEC. I think Auburn is in for maybe a massive dark age. And obviously the other team that this hurts is Tennessee significantly, who's also trying to rebuild. Also one of those really good programs in the 90s. They just cannot find footing at all. Okay, now look at this headline. Big Ten Notebook. Nebraska is just happy to be here. They got to take shots at Nebraska, guys. Come on. You hate seeing it. The shots being taken at Nebraska. It is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. We will see what happens when it comes to these conferences. There's so many rumors going on right now. It's just, I think we go to a Power 4 conference, maybe 16 teams per conference, all across the top 4. And then you've got the Big 12 either dissolving or becoming one of the, group of 5 conferences with teams like Cincinnati, Houston, maybe. We'll see. It's all speculation. But, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.